I just recently watched the documentary series Devil in the Family, The Fall of Ruby Franke.
Sometimes controversial parenting influencer.
Tonight, she is under arrest.
Franke and her business partner, Jody Hildebrandt,
Charged with child abuse.
aggravated child abuse.
And it's a 3-part documentary series on Hulu that talks about Ruby Franke and her YouTube channel, 8 Passengers. You might know this story because in 2023, it was probably one of the biggest stories to come out online. Because Ruby Franke, she was arrested for child abuse, and in 2024, her and her insane friend/therapist was sentenced to 4 1 to 15-year terms in prison by the Utah District Court.
Family vlogger Ruby Franke has just been sentenced to 4 consecutive 1 to 15-year prison terms, or up to 60 years in prison, after her husband called for the judge to jail his horrific and inhumane wife in a months-long child abuse case that all began after police found her children severely emaciated.
The case was outrageous, and the documentary is even crazier than you might imagine. Because the documentary includes unaired footage and interviews with her ex-husband and the 2 eldest kids. Like, this documentary talks about the reasons why she started this channel in the first place, which was to appease the Mormon church, and also the reasons why she starved and abused her kids was because she thought they were demons. Wait, where are they from? This town looks so dystopian. The documentary begins with Ring camera footage of a child knocking on a door asking for help, and it's one of Ruby Franke's kids who escaped captivity. And then it goes back to years before the incident happened, back to the Ruby Franke family, living in a town in Utah. They talk a lot about how Mormon culture emphasizes showing a perfect life to encourage others to join.
Utah has become the epicenter for family vlogging. Just by sharing their lives on camera, they're thinking they're doing God's work.
And this was Ruby's main inspiration to start YouTube, to appease to the church.
The way that God intended our children to be raised up.
They show some unseen, never before seen, unedited footage of some of the vlogs. So you can really see how much anger Ruby was hiding off camera that was cut out.
I always ask myself when I schedule a weekend, is what I scheduled worth? Hey, I'm still recording!
Ruby's eldest kids, Chad and Shay, were interviewed throughout this documentary to share their personal experiences. They often talked about how their house was basically like a set.
We changed all the light bulbs from our yellow shade to like a bright white.
Of course.
It felt more like a set than a house.
You can see early on in this documentary how these kids were being exploited.
Our entire schedule revolved around YouTube.
It's the worst.
And I think that's where I started to have issues.
They were called employees. As their channel got bigger, certain kids got exploited more and put in the thumbnails more often because that's what the audience wanted to see.
Smile. Chad, look at me.
Keep smiling out lenses.
Okay, let's go back.
They also interviewed the husband, Kevin. The entire time Kevin was on camera, it was infuriating to watch because he was so brainwashed by his wife. There's one part where he said that he would easily have picked his wife over his kids, even after everything had happened.
Even though she abused the kids, you still love her.
Oh yeah.
And he never stepped in to do anything, even though he knew his family was being exploited. But I don't want to talk about him right now. There's some unseen footage of Ruby bribing the kids, offering them money to be excited for the videos.
And everyone gets $10 for a video that they help with. Do you want $10?
There's unseen footage of her threatening and blackmailing her son.
Be excited to tell them where your name came from, even if you have to fake it. Fake being happy. Okay?
I don't know if I can right now.
And that's exactly what the first episode is about, the rise of their YouTube channel. So as they started getting more popular, they started making more money, getting $100,000 a month in ad revenue and sponsorships, but it was taking a toll on the family. Chad, the eldest son, was lashing out at school. He didn't want to participate in the vlogs. So Ruby found an online counselor to talk to him once a week, and that was Jody.
We have searched high and low for a therapist to help Chad see that, and Jody is 1 in a million. I say that quite literally.
They kept referring to her as a therapist, but I looked online. She's not a licensed therapist. Jody Hildebrandt was a Utah licensed counselor in 2005, and in 2012, her license was put on probation. But Jodi was the snake in the grass that they let into the family, and she was one of the main reasons why their family broke apart. Jodi would suggest that Ruby and Kevin would punish Chad for his bad behavior. She suggested that they take away his belongings. They made him sleep in the basement.
She gave me an option to sleep like in the living room, or she gave me the option to go down in the basement and sleep on our little beanbag.
What? Chad even talks about the punishments from his parents, which included whipping.
She would spank, whip, take the belt out and whip my butt, pull down my pants, whip me.
Chad, I've asked you to give me a night where it's enjoyable to be with you.
He'd get a bloody nose and I'd bring him, toilet paper and didn't really know what to do. He got beat really bad one time, and I helped him clean blood off the walls.
And then in one of their videos, Chad says that he's been sleeping in the basement on a beanbag chair for months, and for some reason they kept it in the video, and this was the beginning of the controversy for 8 Passengers.
My bedroom was taken away for 7 months, and then you give it back like a couple weeks ago.
I don't think our viewers know that.
Sleeping on a beanbag.
I've been sleeping on a beanbag since October.
I've been sleeping on a beanbag since October, and she's laughing like this is a joke. I need to know, like, these videos aren't up anymore, but I would really like to know what the comments were when this was posted.
When this video hit,
yeah,
all hell broke.
Okay, there we go. Good. I feel so bad for the kids. She's crazy. Yes. His parents are insane, 100%.
The algorithm began to recognize, oh, this is a hot topic.
After the public cancellation, they lost 90% of their income. Ruby hired a lawyer for some reason. I don't know why. And the lawyer suggested that she apologized, and her answer was...
Ruby's response to that was, over my dead body.
And this is basically when Ruby Franke decided to seek more counsel from Jodi, the counselor, because she was feeling isolated. The second episode is mostly about Jodi. Jodi convinced Ruby to be her sidekick.
And I'm Ruby Franke, Jodi's sidekick.
Jodi convinced Ruby to change the name of their channel from 8 Passengers to Mums of Truth.
I remember looking on my social media and I got an invitation for joining this Moms of Truth group on Facebook.
Which, as far as I could tell, was kind of like a cult-like podcast. And then she moves into Ruby Franke's house. And when she moved in, she convinced Ruby to kick out her husband, kick out their eldest son, Chad, for possessing satanic behavior.
17 at this time.
Did it make any sense to you at the time, moving out?
Yeah, I really thought I was messing with the house, messing with the spirit in the house. But I think that was my mom and Jodi's perfect chance to find something wrong with me and my dad at the same time and kick us out together.
The dad got kicked out as well? And even to disown their eldest daughter.
She said something like, Sherry, you're causing a lot of damage to the family.
What?
And, you've shown you don't want to be part of our family, and you're deceived. I got a phone call that basically said, you've been removed from the car insurance. You need to get your own. I got a call that said, at the end of the year, your health insurance is going to be terminated.
Oh, no. Episode 3, the final episode, was the hardest to watch. The husband, Kevin, was kicked out of the house and hadn't spoken to any of the kids in 1 year. Ruby began to hate the 2 other kids that were still there, and there were reports that they were home alone for hours and sometimes days. Sherry, who was away at college, was concerned for her siblings, called the police, but the police couldn't do anything without a warrant.
Why couldn't the police just go in?
Yeah.
They needed to get a warrant by the judge, and the officer said that the judge would not sign off on it.
I text Kevin. I'm like, hey man, cops are outside your house. Hope things are okay. What's going on? No response.
Kevin is a spineless
I tried to text Kevin and I was blocked.
Then the episode gets to the part where it began, with one of the kids who escaped Jodi's house, found a neighbor. He was malnourished, had duct tape on his hands and legs, and wanted to be taken to a police station.
I just had a 12-year-old boy show up here at my front door asking for help. He's emaciated. He's got duct taped around each ankle. He's hungry and he's thirsty.
And that was when they arrested Jody in her house, and then they arrested Ruby a few hours later when she got back to the home.
We decided we're going to do a sweep of the house and try to locate whatever other children were in the home.
They had interviewed the officers in charge of this investigation, and she said that Ruby wouldn't speak at all, like she had lost her mind.
You don't have anything on you that I should know about, correct? Any weapons, anything that we're going to find?
She didn't ask questions. She didn't ask how the kids were.
Oh my goodness. And she speculates that the reason that this even happened was because of religious beliefs.
Going into that interview, I wanted to find out more about the dynamic, what had led to this, and then I just pretty much heard I support my wife, I support Jody and her teachings, and I haven't seen my kids in a year. I'm like, great. So, not very helpful, but you're also not really a suspect anymore at this point.
So Ruby and Jody get charged with 6 different offenses against the children. The police raid the houses again and find more evidence for the case.
This is everything. Like, she's literally written down everything.
Ruby was keeping a diary inside of the house that had all of the information of everything that she was doing to her kids.
I come back with a cactus poker. When I poke his back to get in the sun, he doesn't even flinch. I told him, give your demon friend a message for me. I will not rest. I will not stop. No. I will not leave.
Because remember, she thought they were possessed. So she thought that she was trying to exorcise demons by starving and binding these children in the basement. That's basically how the story ends. The daughter, well, first of all, she said she's never speaking to her mother again, and she shouldn't. She has a book, and this book was an instant #1 New York Times bestseller, and it's called The House of My Mother, A Daughter's Quest for Freedom, Ruby Franke. Seems like she's doing quite well despite all of the terrible things she had to endure. So yeah, if you want to watch the docu-series in its entirety, it's pretty good. It's wild. It's insane. Disgusting. It's horrible. Don't watch it.